Hey guys.
Michael, can you promote Matt? Okay.
Matt should be promoted as co-host right now, and I promoted you, Julie, as host. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Matt should be promoted as co-host right now, and I promoted you, Julie, as host. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay, I think we're at 6 o'clock.
Are we ready to go? We checked to make sure everybody's microphones are working okay. Can everybody hear me?
We haven't.
This is Kent. Can you hear me?
Yeah, let's just really quickly, I'm going to go through just everybody, if you'll take your microphones off mute, just so we can double check. Boys, Bob, you there? Excellent. Jay?
Here.
Corbin?
I'm here.
Kent?
Here.
Trish?
I'm here.
Ammon?
Present.
Excellent. Sounds like everybody's good to go. I'm going to assume that all the staff is ready for us to go. So we'll go ahead and get started. Let me just get my agenda back up over here. We'll go ahead and call to order the Planning Commission meeting for tonight, April 21st, 2020. Our first go at a virtual Zoom meeting. So if you're joining us for the meeting as a member of the public, please be patient with us as we work through any potential kinks. Hopefully there won't be any, but we've tried to make sure we iron all of those out. For those who wish to speak, there should be an opportunity for you to make a comment in the chat, and we will address questions during the public speaking portion in the order that the questions are asked in the chat room.
Hey, Matt, can I make a clarification?
Yes, please.
They won't be able to chat, but they can raise their hand, and then you'll call on them when it's public comment.
Okay. Please raise your hand. I think that will go for all of the planning commissioners as well then. So the first item, Julie, is there anything else I missed? I think that covers all of us for business, right?
Yeah, the commissioners should be able to speak, but if you want them to raise their hand or order, you can do that.
Okay, well, if we all want to speak at the same time, raise your hand. Otherwise, just hit your space bar, hold it down, and that will temporarily unmute you while we move forward. So the first item up on our agenda for tonight is to approve the minutes from our meeting of March 3rd, 2020. That seems like a long time ago. Any questions or discussion about this or a potential motion?
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
We have a motion by Commissioner England. I assume that the raised hand means a second by Commissioner Thomas.
Correct.
All right. Motion by Commissioner England, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Just looks like we're okay on that. I didn't see any dissents. Just make sure you hit your space bar when you want to, chime in on any speaking moment, even if it's just for a vote, so we can get everybody's voice on the thing. That passes unanimously 7-0. The next up is to appoint, I'm assuming just one commissioner. Is that correct, Mr. Gardner? to the General Plan Committee?
This is Duncan Murray. That is correct. That's what the
Okay.
current code says.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Murray. Does anybody want to volunteer to serve on the General Plan Committee for the rest of this year?
I would love to.
All right. Anybody else interested in doing this, or are we all good with letting Commissioner Hatch take the reins? Do we need to accept this by motion as well, Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Okay. We need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner England, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. Any discussion to the motion? All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any Commissioner Badone, I didn't see a response. Bob, are you there? I'm not sure if Commissioner Badone, can you hear me? Yeah, he just need you to take your microphone. I didn't see a response. Are you okay with that motion? There we go. Are you okay with that motion?
Be garbled, so
Okay, if you'll just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down when you want to vote, that will help me as well, just so I have a record of it. We have a unanimous vote on that if there's nobody opposed. Is anybody opposed to that motion? Okay, we are unanimous in approving that one with Commissioner Hatch to serve as our representative on the General Plan Committee. Thank you, Commissioner Hatch, for signing up to do that. That moves us into the public phase, the public hearing phase of our meeting. Item number 3 up will be the 2020 Jordan Landing sign plan. And we'll skip through all the addresses and everything. Mr. Forsyth, looks like you're presenting this one. Do you want to go ahead and take the reins for us?
Yes, Commissioner, I'll take that.
Thank you.
Okay, can everyone see that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So Foursquare Properties has just kind of been in the process over the last couple of years. Rebranding, landing mostly through their sign. So the amendment check in 2016, where they basically refurbished pretty much every pylon sign in the entire commercial area to a more contemporary look, just to kind of rebrand that and make it a little more attractive, as a lot of the signs were kind of deteriorating. So this latest amendment to the sign plan is really just a couple things. So the first one, the pylon sign that's just to the east of the entertainment village there, that was for some reason or another wasn't included in the 2016 version, and so they want to include that now to redesign that to kind of match more the design of the entertainment village and to kind of blend with that. And the other change that they're making is to add a wall sign, a large wall sign on the southwest corner of the new Rush Funplex building that's going in just south of the movie theater there. So just to kind of go over some of the zoning real quick. So it's located in an SC3 zone, which is a regional commercial zone. So as such, this is the biggest commercial zone in the city, and pylon signs and some of the large wall signs are tend to be more common there. So so we as staff feel that their changes are appropriate, and should work well with that, the intent of that regional commercial area. So as you can see here on the screen, this is the sign that they want to replace the existing pylon sign with. So kind of a more contemporary look. So this new sign will actually be a little bit smaller and shorter than what is currently there. And staff has looked at this to make sure it's meeting all the height and size requirements, and it does. They have a distancing requirement we did look at. So there's the closest pylon sign is over on the corner of Plaza Center Drive and Center Park Drive. So we've classified that as a minor pylon in order to meet the minimum separation requirements of 150. And they're showing here at 170 feet, so they should be good on that. The other sign is a Marquee Sign, what the applicant is called it. Right now, the city ordinances don't have a for a Marquee Sign to amend the ordinance. Decided to just classify it as a wall sign as it meets all the requirements for the maximum sign area and thickness. So just one thing to kind of note, you can kind of see the sign
Mr.
sticking
Forsyth,
up a little bit above. Yes.
can you hold on for 1 second? Commissioners, will you please just quickly mute your microphone so that we can get the background noise out of the way? Thank you. Continue, please.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. So like I was saying, you can kind of see the wall sign sticks up a little bit above the roof. We do have a category in our ordinance called roof signs, which usually refers to signs that sit directly on the roof. And so because this is attached mostly to the wall and isn't sitting directly on the roof, we can kind of bypass that and essentially class it as a wall sign and not classify it as a roof sign. So this is kind of a similar thing to what we did with Target's wall sign that faces 7800 South. So that's kind of we have a little bit of precedent for that. So just to wrap up real quick, going over the conditions of approval, those are all the same as the 2016 Jordan Landing sign plan. We just added one condition on there that covers sign. Going back to the pylon sign, you can kind of see the multi-color effect that those don't end up creating any strobe light effects. So a Plat sign where it's kind of a gradual transition. So with those findings, staff is recommending approval of the amendment to the Jordan Landing sign plan.
Okay, it sounds like Matt lost internet, so I'm going to take over here for a minute.
It looks like I'm
Back on?
back.
All right.
Yep. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. All right. Sorry. Did we finish up with your presentation then, Mr. Forsyth? I assume we did.
Yes. Yeah, we did.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
I only heard about part of it, but I think I got pretty much the gist of it. He was coming in and out pretty bad.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for staff? Commissioner England.
Just one. He said there was an additional condition of approval added that was in addition to the ones added in 2016, and he cut out right at that point from on my end. Just curious what that, is it the number 9 condition of approval that was added, or was it any one of the other ones?
So there was just the one. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So it's just the one condition that we added. All the rest are the exact same from the 2016 sign plan. We just added the one, just ensuring that any lighting doesn't flash or have strobe lighting effects.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Commissioner Allen.
Thank you. And mine goes to the lighting as well. I drive on that corner quite often and see the traffic on there. That is a worry, even though it's not going to be a strobe effect or anything like that. Just having a light on that corner, I'm afraid, is going to start or distract. And I know that they're trying to get people in. I think this is a great location, but I still do worry about that lighting. Do we have similar situations within the city or elsewhere where we've seen this kind of gradual fading that I can use as a comparison? Do we know how that works in relation to traffic?
There's no examples that I know of. This will probably be the first in the city, but the closest thing I can think of would be like an LED sign. But as far as I know, they're not proposing an electronic message center or anything like that. It's just kind of the backlighting.
Okay, so this isn't a flashing light. There's no strobe effect or anything like that. It's just going to fade from one color into another.
Right. Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and take open this up to any of the public who are with us if they would like to speak about this.
Matt?
Yes.
I think I've got the applicant is here.
Oh, I didn't see him on the notes. Mr. Millich wants to take a minute?
I'm thinking that that's his phone. It had a Carlsbad area code.
Yeah, down at the bottom right there. Okay. Yeah, Dan, sorry I didn't catch you hanging on here with us. Is there something you want to add to the conversation for us?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. Very excited to be a part of this process and doing this remotely. Not for the reasons we're doing it remotely, but excited about the process. I'm just, Mark did a great job on the overview where again, the pylon sign was a miss, so we're picking that up with this amendment. And the Cinemark sign on the corner there, when we proposed this Rush Funplex building, as most commissioners will remember, it's a big building. It's under construction right now. We did show this sign on that building at that time just for place of reference, if you will, to understand that this is something we're going to be coming back and asking for official permission for. But, you know, to give it the context of why we were doing it then, I think was important. It's very important to Cinemark because the view of Cinemark, even though everybody in the valley knows where they are and who they are, newcomers to the area is their concern. And when you're driving northbound on Jordan Landing Boulevard, this Rush Funplex building is going to pretty much block Cinemark from view. That, with the plaza redevelopment and the new folks that are coming into that redevelopment area for our plaza redevelopment, this is a sign to showcase those. So it's a joint thing for Cinemark and for those new users that'll be out at the plaza. And we don't expect to have any flashing lights, you know, slow changing lights maybe. I think for the most part, the lighting will probably be fixed. Our big message board is on the other side of the center, out on Bangor Highway, and that's probably where it's more appropriate. So again, just any questions, I'm happy to entertain those and try and address them, but we're excited about getting these signs going and moving forward.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Milich. Glad you could join us, and hey, at least it saved you a flight in from Southern California tonight, huh?
Yeah.
Any questions for the applicant? I think we got them pretty well taken care of with staff, right? Mr. Allen, go ahead.
Not a question, more of a comment. I just wanted to express that I appreciate trying to keep this area fresh. It'll look really nice, I think, in Jordan Landing, and hopefully bring in a lot more business in the area.
Oh, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Anything else, guys? Okay, now we'll move forward. Sorry, I guess it's been 2 months since I've done this. You'd think I'd be ready to move forward on this. We'll go ahead and open this up to the public. Please keep in mind that you still only have 3 minutes if you wish to speak on this item. So we'll go ahead and open that up. I recognize most of the names on this list. So it doesn't look like we have any public with us that I can see. Seeing nobody signaling to me, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring this back to the Planning Commission for discussion and possible motion. Did I miss something, Julie?
Well, I'm sorry. There are a couple of telephones on there. I don't know if the planners know whose those numbers belong to. One might be Bill Baranowski. So I don't know if we want to unmute them and ask if they had a comment on this for just the extension number, the last 4 of their phone number.
All of the tiles on my screen are labeled, and I recognize all the names except for Rachel McKay.
Yeah, you have to go to, I have to allow them to speak. So you have to go to your participant, your attendees.
Let me switch over here. Okay.
And so there's a number that ends in 4924 that I will allow to speak and see if they want to say anything on this, or maybe they can tell us which item they're here to speak on so that we know.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, I've done that.
All right, whoever belongs to 4924, would you please just let us know if you are intending on speaking tonight and for which item so we can keep track of that?
Okay.
Okay, we'll move along here, and as soon as it's ready, we'll go ahead and solicit the same questions to 2554 when you get it unmuted.
Transportation.
There
okay.
we go. Say that again. Say 2554. Go ahead. Which one are you looking for?
I'm on the transportation part.
Okay. What's your
number
name?
9. Okay.
It's Mike Jones.
Oh, Mike Jones. Okay. We'll come back to you.
We know you. All right. And then we've got a couple that are labeled down here. Do we want to go through those still? Or do we know who these items belong to? I recognize.
Yeah, I think the other ones are, I don't know about John Taylor, but they can raise their hand. The phone numbers can't raise their hand.
John Taylor is here for the West Jordan Airport LLC development.
Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with my connection all of a sudden. Did we get Beverly taken care of, Julie?
Yeah, I think we're done.
Okay. Sorry, my internet keeps popping in and out. All right. Commissioners, any discussion or potential motions? Commissioner Thomas.
If there's no questions, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Any objection, guys? I think we're good. Go ahead.
Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon evidence and explanations received today, I move the Planning Commission approve the Jordan Landing Sign Plan Amendment 2020 located at 3774 West Centerview Way in an SC3 zone with conditions and approvals listed on page 2 of the report.
I'll second that.
Said that. Commissioner England.
Commissioner
All right, we
England,
have a
second.
motion by Commissioner Thomas, seconded by Commissioner England. Any discussion to the motion? All right, all those in favor, please make sure you unmute first. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we appear to be unanimous on that one, approving that. Moving along to our next agenda item, which is number 4, Eagles Nest subdivision on 2997 West Hahn Drive, preliminary and final subdivision plat, 3 lots on 3.75 acres in an RR1D zone. Brooks Properties, Kurt Brooks is the applicant. So we'll go ahead and turn the time over to you, Mr. Brooks.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. This is Kurt Brooks. What we're proposing is over there on Hahn Drive, 2997. There's 4 parcels we own. We've owned them for about 15 years. One of them is landlocked at the current time. We want to take those 4 lots and turn them into 3 1-acre residential lots, putting a road into those lots and allowing the one on the west side of the property, the west, to be able to access that road. That was one of the requirements from the city. We pretty much met all the requirements for the road. We are giving up a 1/2 acre of land to the city for that road and putting in all the development on that road at our cost. Exhibit C, which you have in your packet, is wrong. They're not 1/2 acre lots. They are 1-acre lots. That comes from the last time we were going to put 1/2 acre lots in. We've revised that to the 1-acre lots. We've also met with staff, got all the current conditions for that public road. There'll be 4 street lights on that. There'll be a new hydrant added. And then, like I said, of course, the people to the west will have access to that if they decide to develop later on. The 1-acre lots, there's 3 total. One will can either face Hahn or the new road, and the other 2 will be on the new road. And I think you've got an exhibit there that kind of shows the cul-de-sac and what we're doing there. We're not asking for any zoning changes, just approval, I guess, for the road so we can access those lots.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant, Commissioner Thomas?
Is this going to be a private road or is this going to be turned over and deeded back to the city?
Turned over and deeded back to the city. That's what they wanted, so we could give access to the west property.
Okay, that's the only question I had.
Commissioners, anybody else? Yeah, so just unmute yourself if you have a question. I can't see all the tiles anymore. Okay, we'll go ahead and hand this over to the staff, I believe. Let me get back to here. I think it's Ms. Elgin, you got this one tonight?
Yes, that's me.
All right, it's all you.
Good evening. Like Mr. Brooks said, he's been in here a few times. You've seen it. This time he's coming back in accordance with the zoning ordinance instead of trying to rezone. So we're taking 3 parcels this time and changing them into 3 lots with the road down the western side of it. I'd just like to add that the sidewalk, if you zoom in on the plat, there's no sidewalk along the west side of it. They're leaving that. If the parcel on the west decides to develop in the future, they'll add that sidewalk in. And the street doesn't quite meet city standards. However, the city engineer has approved it. And you can see the average lot size is going to be 46,519.9 square feet. He is in compliance with all municipal codes. So with that, staff recommends approval of this major subdivision.
Any questions, commissioners? I have one really quickly, and then we'll go to Commissioner England. You said that the road doesn't meet the city standards, but it's been approved. What are we missing other than the fact that it just looks like a half road kind of right now? What are we missing that needs to be brought up to city standard? Is that going to be the responsibility of whoever develops to the west?
Is Nate around? Is Nate
Say that
on there?
again?
Can Nate answer that one?
I believe I saw him on there.
Yeah, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'll refer that back to Lisa. She brought that up. Todd was the engineer who reviewed that. I assume it's just some minor geometrical things, but Lisa would probably know more about that.
Okay, they are very minor, and I think the biggest part of the non-conformity, if you want to call it that, is the sidewalk not being on there. But that is being left for future development to the west to develop that.
Okay. Mr. Brooks, go ahead. If you, Julie, can you take him off mute again really quick so he can answer that question?
Yeah, what we had was that cul-de-sac was 25 feet. They wanted 28. That has been adjusted. So it does now meet that current standard
So
other than that
should-
sidewalk to the west. So
Okay. Perfect, thank you. Commissioner England.
A question I have showing on here, if this is accurate, the smallest lot's 41,254.6 square feet. And this being zoned RR1D, 1 acre is 43,560 feet. So that smallest lot, I don't know if this is an issue, is technically under an acre. I guess that's a question for staff or legal.
Okay, the actual zoning of it, the zoning requirement is only 40,000 square feet. So it's not actually required to be an acre.
That works, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, commissioners, any other questions for staff?
I have one regarding the cul-de-sac on there. We've got, for lack of a better term, kind of a wonky setup on that. Is that going to be an issue in the future during the development of this other parcel? Do we want to? It sounds like staff's okay with the not quite conforming road because of the sidewalk. But is this what we want it to look like in the future moving forward?
Yes.
There. Oh, go ahead, Nate.
It's fine as long as it can meet fire turnarounds and that's what's important. And if future lots develop alongside there, we believe there will be adequate access.
Julie, will you let Mr. Brooks speak again there for us?
You can see that they
Yeah,
put a
he should be
temporary lot line in there on that other property where it shows breaking up that into 2 parcels. In order to get the frontage for that back lot, we had to go flat there to give him the frontage to be able to access that road and meet the current codes.
Okay, thank you. All right, commissioners, any other questions for staff?
Yeah, I have one,
Go
Chair.
ahead.
Just out of curiosity, what's on either the east and west side? Is this infill? Who owns that property? And is this going to create a hassle for, oh, thank you, that helps.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So I'm just curious on what this creates, what's left over on either side if we're creating problems down the road.
To the west, there's already a parcel that's developed. And to the east, there is a parcel there developed. All of those lots on the Hahn Drive are too narrow as is to develop. And that's why Mr. Brooks, with his second application he made to the city, it actually included all of those other parcels, but that was denied by the Planning Commission. And of course, he doesn't own them, and the other owners aren't interested at this point in developing with 1 acre lots. So, and you can tell the street down to the south is going to have to come up and access through there when it develops to the east. So, basically, as the code reads today, all of those lots are undevelopable.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up to the public. If there's anybody who wishes to speak on this item, just go ahead and raise your hand on your device there. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing for this item. Bring this back to the Planning Commission for further discussion or motion. Commissioner Allen.
Chair, I apologize. I tried to unmute on that last question. I didn't quite get it in. I've got one other question for staff following on Commissioner Hatch's statement. Are we pigeonholing something here? I don't know. I don't suspect we would want to see a bunch of cul-de-sacs just coming off of Hahn Drive in the future. Is this something where we do need to step back and understand a little bit more about the master planning in this area? I know nobody's interested now. But what are the thoughts from staff? Is that something we need to step back and look at, or are we okay with 4 different cul-de-sacs coming off of there?
Okay, as you can see, this cul-de-sac is actually going to allow development to come to that west parcel if need be. If they decide to subdivide their lot, they'll be able to use that public road to access to the back of their property. To the east, as I mentioned, none of those properties are developable on their own. So they would have to come under some kind of an agreement between all of the owners and develop them together, or sell them all off to another developer, something along that lines. But no, you couldn't get four cul-de-sacs down there because they're just not developable right now.
Well, I think that's what I'm suggesting. So at some point in time, these properties are all going to come up for development. I mean, just in the future, I know nobody's interested now, but eventually that's going to happen. So theoretically, we could be looking at another cul-de-sac right across from 2940 West, and then another 1 or 2 further to the west, probably one following, I can't see the name of that. Is that Jeremiah Jenkins? Is that something we're okay with, or is this something that needs to be looked at on a master plan basis?
To the west, it's developed as much as it's going to be developed, except for the parcel directly adjacent to the west. And we've already taken care of access to the back part of that parcel. Actually, Mr. Brooks might be able to answer better to the development on the parcels to the east, because he has talked to all of those neighbors a lot in trying to come together and make a bigger development. But like I said, it would take at least 2 of those parcels to come together. If 3 came together and left 1 out, at that point, it might be a time where we want to let's step back and see what we're leaving behind. But right now, those property owners are going to have to come together and do something together as it is. And that would eliminate cul-de-sacs in the future.
So we're really just looking at those 4 parcels to the east that could potentially have future development. Stuff to the west is, aside from the one that's already adjoining the cul-de-sac that's up tonight, that's all developed.
Yes, according to the zoning ordinance, they couldn't develop anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Julie, looks like the applicant has a question.
No, just a comment. If you look at that map, that double line you can see to the east, that's the canal. And then there's a flag lot just on the other side of that. So she's correct. Those 4 lots would have to go together to be able to develop anything. And that might mean, maybe one more road or cul-de-sac there. And you'd have to rezone it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Just one. Commissioner England here.
Go ahead.
Just plain devil's advocate. Are cul-de-sacs frowned upon? I think they're desirable. I grew up in one myself. I loved it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with them. That's just my opinion.
The applicant has another statement or comment. or not. Okay, continue the discussion, I guess. I'm trying to think of the reasons, and maybe Ms. Elgin, you can refresh our memory on this. What our specific issues have been in the past with this property, why we've been so hesitant to forward a recommendation or approve the request of the applicant on this. Because I think this is number 3 on the go around, isn't it? Can you remind us what our specific issues have been in the past?
The first application was for the same 4 parcels. And I don't remember how many lots they had on that application, but they were proposing to rezone to half-acre lots. The Planning Commission forwarded a positive recommendation to the City Council, and the City Council denied it, with concerns about pigeonholing and developing more of the property together all at once. The applicant came back. He had the parcel to the west and the parcel to the east involved in, and I think they were going to make 11 parcels. I think 11 was the magic number that time, with half-acre parcels again. And Planning Commission denied it at that point. I think there was a lot of apprehension from all the neighbors that did not want it going down to half-acre lots at that point. So then he came forward with an application for 1-acre lots.
Okay. Commissioner England. Oh, Commissioner Hatch, followed.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hatch.
I just want to say I've read through the notes on this, and I appreciate the perseverance to push this through. And I think it is going to pigeonhole at some point, but I think this is the best option to keep neighbors and the developer and the owner of the land to get something out of what they have. So I think this iteration works well.
Commissioner England.
I would agree exactly. I mean, they're not even asking for a rezone. It's really just a preliminary and a final subdivision plat, or excuse me. Yes, it's just a preliminary and final subdivision plat. So
yeah.
Unless anybody's got anything else, I've got a motion ready here. Go ahead,
Commissioner Allen.
I just want to say I'm in agreement. I don't have an issue with cul-de-sacs from a living standpoint. I think they are fantastic. I worry if you get 3 or 4 of them in a row off of the same road, the road maintenance, snowplow, all at the axis. There's a lot of turns, and does that create more traffic, more potential for collision, some of those kinds of things. I really think it's a shame that that the entire area couldn't be developed together. I think half-acre lots would be fantastic through that. That said, I do see the perseverance, and I like what's coming forward at this point.
Commissioner England, if you want to go ahead and make your motion.
I move that the Planning Commission approve Eagles Nest subdivision located at 2997 West Hahn Drive with conditions of approval numbers 1 through 3 on page 2 of the staff report.
I'll second that.
Okay, Commissioner Shelton, was that you that was ringing on that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We have a motion by Commissioner England, seconded by Commissioner Shelton. Any discussion to the motion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we appear to be unanimous once again. You guys did it, Mr. Brooks. Well done. Moving right along, we have item number 5, Canyon and Company Office Rezone 8631 South Redwood Road, rezone of 2.29 acres from RR1A zone to professional office zone. Canyon and Company. Gary, the floor is yours, sir. It's been a while since we've seen you. Hang on one second. We're getting you. I think you should be just about ready to go. Yep, you're ready to go now. Ready to go. Yeah. Mr. Cannon, the floor is yours. Mr. Cannon, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you for the nice warm welcome. Nice beer, Jay. I just want to give a brief history of this property. As noted, I bought the property on the southerly border of this about 15 years ago, before 8600 South or Gardner Lane was punched through to Redwood. Part of the negotiating to make the Ganson property to get it the zoning for single family homes was a big reason that it happened, was because I traded my property for this one. It's a smaller piece, and I feel like it is in the highest and best use. This has come before. It's a long, narrow piece, but it is suitable for building. I was online for a couple months ago, and Mrs. Lund, to the north of me, who owns a daycare center, she reached out to me and said, Gary, would you mind if, and I did not know what her current zoning is on the daycare. She said, would you mind incorporating our property into the rezone as well? And I said, yes, I will. And it did cost us a little bit of time, but I want to restate, I really appreciate my relationship with the city. It goes a long ways back, and I know a lot of you get tired of hearing that, but this is a great example of a business growing within the city. I'm proud to tell you, this is my 5th move with my real estate company in West Jordan City. The first one started in 1991, which was a lease. The second one was a lease. The third one was a lease. The fourth one, we bought one of the office condo in the strip mall of the West Jordan Gateway. We bought that about 4 years ago. We have grown to the point now where we are wanting to build again in West Jordan and keep our business here. And we're just proud to put this out there. I also want to say this is going to be something that the community, I'm proud of West Jordan. My grandparents moved there in the 30s. I'm also a servant to my community. I'm chairman of the Riverton City Planning Commission, so I have a lot of respect for the service you guys render. But my thought process in this building, we're going to have a large, and that'll probably be a fake tree in the beginning, but I would like it to be something that grows with the building, and over the years have a Christmas tree out in front that people will be able to recognize and know. For any of us who've grown up in small towns, there was always a town Christmas tree, and that's one of the plans that we plan on doing here. So, but I'm welcome to any questions you guys may have, guys and gals, and I appreciate those online who have weathered this storm, because this is my 4th Zoom meeting, and I know it's difficult to navigate around what we're doing right now. And in all fairness to the community and the neighbors who wonder why we're having to do these meetings, I understand why, and their opinion is important. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cannon. Any questions for the applicant? While we're looking for any comments, I'll just say we're grateful that you're willing to continue to keep your business located here, and we appreciate all you do for the city. And specifically that you're going to turn in some land right there on Redwood back to where it should be in that office space and not more houses. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Chair,
Commissioner Hatch.
Thank you. I just have one question about that little teeny piece, 8601. What's happening with that little piece? It's a little corner.
That's not part of the rezone. I know it's a little house, and I'm not even sure if it's rented or if the owner still lives there, but, and I don't know, Mrs. Lund reached out to them to see if they wanted to move forward on that. But if they're planning on staying there to put this into some type of a commercial use, I wouldn't recommend doing that, because their property taxes would probably double or triple.
My concern is we're just leaving one house with this commercial again, I just would like to see more uniformity along Redwood Road. And if we're rezoning, it would be nice to take care of it all at once. And I don't, maybe it's out of bounds. I know that's not your concern, but as planning commission, it's something that I look at. I don't know if we can say that for city staff.
Yeah, we can definitely address that specifically with staff. To me, it looks like it's part of a professional office zone already. So if something were to happen with it, it can be rezoned into some sort of a business. Mr. Hoodman, we'll get you on the public comment section, okay? Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, Mr. Page, this one's yours, sir.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So do you see land use map and zoning map?
I would need you to share your screen there, Mr. Page. There you go.
Okay, so do you see land use map and zoning map?
Yep.
Okay, the current land use or current future land use for this property is professional office. The current zoning for this property is rural residential, 4,000 square foot minimum. So the proposal to rezone from rural residential to professional office is in keeping with the general plan. So as staff, we see that this could be an improvement. So we'd recommend your recommendation to the City Council for approval. I'd be glad to try to address any questions that you might have at this time.
If you could just speak to 8601, I know that was the question we had. It looks like so it's currently zoned still as part of that rural residential, but if it were to be rezoned, the suggestion of the future land use map would have a professional office.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to know, Commissioner Hatch?
No, but I think it's something we, as a planning commission, need to be cognizant of as we leave these little pieces behind. So, and I understand it's nothing that we're looking at here tonight. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions for staff? Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up to the public comment section. I know there is I believe Richard Hoodman that has been patiently waiting for his opportunity to share his thoughts on this. So if we can start with him, Julie, and then we'll let anybody else that wants to make a comment go ahead and line up behind him. Mr. Hoodman, you should be ready to go now. Go ahead and share your question with us.
Yeah, I think mine is for another property. Sorry about that.
Okay, well, we'll get you on the next one then. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and close the public hearing for this item and bring this back to the Planning Commission for further discussion, possible motion. Commissioner Thomas, with your,
I just want to make
a hand.
Can't help it. I just want to make a comment that, especially with being on Redwood Road and stuff, it makes sense to develop this out as commercial and office building. The residential along Redwood Road is, I'm sure, going to be going away quite quickly because, first of all, the access to Redwood Road became harder and harder. But I think this is a huge, good step for our city and stuff. And so, if nobody else has any comments, I'd love to entertain the motion.
Go for it, Jay.
Okay, did we lose Chairman Quinney? All right, I'll make the motion then. Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council to rezone 2.29 acres from an RR1A residential, rural residential, 40,000 square foot lot zone to a PO professional office zone.
Unless Matt's on here, I'll take over as chair for just a moment. So we've got a motion by Commissioner Thomas. Any second?
I'll second.
Ammon, thank you. Commissioner Allen. So we've got a motion by
Okay, sorry. Commissioner England, if you see me freeze up again, just take over, okay? I don't know what's going on with my internet tonight. Haven't had any issue. We've been 5 computers on this thing all day long, and today is the one day I have a problem with it. I apologize. Any other comments from the staff from the Planning Commission?
We already made the motion.
Oh, who made the motion? Sorry.
I did.
And who seconded?
I
think
did.
it was Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. All right, any discussion? We have a motion from Commissioner Thomas, seconded by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion to the motion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cannon. Appreciate you, you and your company in our city.
Thank you, Commission. Appreciate it. Look forward to working with you some more. Thanks, Kent.
Moving along, next item up is Copper Rim Clubhouse. This is at 5959 West Verdigris Drive for a final site plan in a PC zone. We've got CW Land Company is the applicant, Greg Day. We'll go ahead and turn the time over to Mr. Day.
I don't see a day on here. There are 2 phone numbers.
I've got him on mine, but I don't. I can't make him. I can't make him available.
It says
so.
Greg Day.
Yeah. Greg, will you just raise your hand on the thing really quick so that she can see which one you are? There you go, Julie. 1778.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? Okay, Mr. Day, the floor is yours, sir. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Can everyone hear me now?
We can hear you loud and clear.
That's great. Thank you guys for continuing with the public process and having these meetings. We're very excited to bring the Copper Rim Clubhouse to the Planning Commission. If you've driven by our site, we have a lot of construction going on. We're building lots of roads, and we're kind of planning ahead, and we kind of want to bring the clubhouse on ahead of schedule. And so that's what you see here tonight. I think Mr. McCandless he did a great job on putting the staff report together, and yeah, we're very excited. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Short and sweet. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, we'll save you some time after the public hearing if necessary. All right, Greg.
Okay, thank you.
We've got Mr. McCandless and Mr. Johnson. We'll let Ray run point on this one.
Thank you. Julie, if you'll let me share the screen. Can you see this?
Yep.
Okay. So as most of you are familiar with the Copper Rim developments, planned community. that was done, I guess, a couple of years ago, was approved, adopted by the Planning Commission a couple of years ago. This is the location that's along the Mountain View Highway, 7800 South. And what the applicant's doing now is just putting a new clubhouse that was required as part of the approval process for that development. So the clubhouse is located roughly on this side, if you can see my arrow. This is the amenity map, and that clubhouse is located like right here. This is just a site plan showing the clubhouse, the proposed parking for that clubhouse. There's a couple of items that we brought up in the staff report. They're proposing to do 17 parking spaces, but we're recommending 24, and that's just based on it's the number that's taken out of the parking code at 1 space per 150 square feet of floor area and pool area. So that is one of our recommended conditions of approval, is that be expanded. The other thing is that we're also looking at these are single family lots that are right here. This is lot 101, 102, and 103. And we are recommending that a decorative masonry fence be installed along between these two uses. This will be along the east property line. This is just the access to the site. The site will be well landscaped. There will be a fence will be installed around the pool area, but that'll be kind of the steel, slatted steel fence that'll be installed around the pool area. This is just a building elevation showing what the clubhouse will look like. I think they might flip it so that the changing rooms are closer to the parking lot, but it'll look pretty much the same as it's shown here. These are just the 4-sided elevations of the structure. So it's pretty straightforward. It was one of the required amenities as part of the Copper Rim development. And with that, I'll just open it up for any questions you might have.
My first question is, we all start thinking of our questions. Why are they proposing 17 stalls when the code says 24? And is there any provision for us allowing them to just get away with doing 17 without any major exceptions to the rule?
Well, what happens is there are no specific standards for a clubhouse that's within a planned community, or clubhouse and a pool. So what we have to do is go to the zoning code and find out what's the closest match to that. And so they had proposed 17, but just reviewing our code, we felt that the 1 space per 150 square feet of floor area and pool area would be the best fit for that.
And is there any provision for allowing them to get away with just doing the 17 rather than making them do 24?
Well, in this case,
Saying they're going to do 24.
It's going to be the more stalls, I think, the better in this situation. We just think that there's, I think, like 136. The clubhouse itself would take like 136 occupants. There's like 88 in the spa and pool area. But we just think that more parking spaces are just going to help improve with this use. Plus, it'll keep more cars off the collector road.
I have a question for the applicant.
Go ahead.
So if I understand correctly, you're planning 24. The site plan shows 17. Where are you going to put the additional parking spots?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the additional parking will just be, we will extend the parking lot to the south. So it'll largely remain the same geometric shape. We'll just add the additional stalls there. And that's been drawn up. In fact, I got everything today from the civil engineer and the landscape architect. So that'll be back into the city so we can get compliant with that.
Commissioner?
Greg, you're okay with that change?
Yeah, when you read the code, it's not really exact. Clubhouse is somewhat of a in-between use. It's not really like a gym. People aren't going there to use it like a gym. We do have a pool. We actually, at the recommendation of staff, we looked for other standards that maybe we could justify, and we were unsuccessful. And so I think, hearing staff's concerns, I think we're okay with the 24, and we'll just proceed with those.
Okay, well, if there's no concern, then I'll lay down on my issue with it. So Commissioner Shelton.
Another question, what is the parking on the street availability going to be in this area?
On this, in this case, my understanding is this is a collector street. So I think the traffic engineer is still looking at that, but one of the comments is that no parking to be on that street since it is a collector. So that's one of the reasons that we did recommend additional parking. And I don't know if you, Greg, have heard anything different since we last spoke.
I haven't. I've reached out to Mr. Baranowski. I haven't heard back. I think we're okay with that requirement. I mean, we want people walking to this within the community. There's a lot of folks that will be living near it that I think will walk, and those people that are a little farther away, they can use that parking lot.
Chair, may I
Yes,
address?
go ahead, Ms. Hatch.
Thank you. I'm with the developer on this. I think we want to encourage walking. This is a planned community, and the whole idea is to have amenities within the community that the community can access without having to drive. I understand the need for having more spaces, but I don't want us to lose sight of what the purpose of this community is. It is for walking. It is to have amenities that community can access with on bike or skateboard. And I don't want to make it easier for people to drive, but I also don't want people parking on the street. So there's the conundrum.
Yeah, just one other thing to add, if I might. There is a playground that's right here as well. So that's something that'll be frequented, I'm sure.
Any other questions for staff?
I'm really stuck on this parking. I just wonder with zero ability to park on the street, and this is a very large development. I wonder if 24 is enough. I understand Commissioner Hatch's point of view, and I don't disagree with that.
Let's go, unless there's another specific question outside of this one. Let's open up the public hearing on this one. And then
Chairman, I got one quick question for the owner.
Sure, go ahead.
Will this be allowed to be rented out for the residents for like family parties and weddings and whatnots?
Yeah. Really the main purpose of the clubhouse is for public gatherings, especially for those people who, we have townhomes in the community. So we're trying to gear it towards, if they have a gathering, whether it's like a baby blessing or a birthday or something of that sort, they can come and utilize the clubhouse. So there'll be a small kitchenette in there. There's going to be a nice gathering space, kind of a multi-purpose room that we can set up a bunch of tables and they can rent out. We've kind of organized the clubhouse in such a fashion that you can close off that portion, and so the people who use the pool, there'll be a door between the gathering space and the pool area, so that we can have different people using different areas of the clubhouse. So yeah, to answer your question, yes.
Okay, then the parking stalls probably definitely are needed.
That's a good point. Okay, we'll go ahead and move this to the public hearing. I just wanted to really quickly, Julie, if you could help me out with this, just because I can't remember all the conversations that we had. I know we're not addressing the questions that are coming up in the chat, but we want to remind everybody not to use the chat. Is that correct?
That was my understanding. There is a question there. We'll just remind what item we're on.
Yeah, that was what I was going to get to next. I just wanted to make sure we pointed out not using the chat for anything.
Right. So looks like people are chatting to the panelists, but we can't chat back to the participants. So yeah, I can just disable that whole thing maybe.
Yeah, so that I just wanted to really quickly address that before we go to the public hearing on this one. Please, we're not going to be using the chat function to answer the question that was out there. That is 2 items away from this one. So after we finish this, we have another item, and then that item regarding your question will be the following item, which is number 8 on the agenda. But please, going forward, if you have a question, raise your hand. The agendas are published online, so you can also go to the city website to find the order of the items that we'll be discussing. Moving right into the public hearing on this, Julie, can we go ahead and open that up for any possible discussion?
Yeah, I guess they need to either raise their hands. There are a couple of phone numbers here that we haven't identified. I think the one that ends in 1974. I can open that and see if they're here to talk about this.
I think we've addressed it. Oh, go ahead, 1974. Are you here just listening tonight, or are you here for a specific item?
Okay.
Okay.
I'll disable
We'll
that.
just, yeah. I think at this point we've hit that one on the head enough. So if someone has a question specific to a specific item, then they can just raise their hand, and then we'll get identification procedures out of the way at that point. So anybody wishing to speak on this specific item at this point, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public hearing for this item and bring this back to the Planning Commission for further discussion. Or a motion, since we all seem keen.
Oh, Commissioner.
Yes.
If there's no other discussion, I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Please do.
Yeah, I move that the Planning Commission approve the final site plan for the Copper Rim Clubhouse located at 5959 West Verdigris Drive in a PC zone, subject to the approval conditions listed on page 2 of the staff report.
We have a motion by Commissioner Allen. Anyone wish to second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Padon.
Commissioner England.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Padon. Any discussion to this motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it looks like we are unanimous again. Thank you, Greg, for your perseverance on this project. I know it's been a long haul.
It's going to be
looking forward to the final product.
It's going to be great. We're super happy. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you for joining us tonight. Have a good night. Moving along, item number 7. This is the West Jordan Airport LLC 4701 West, 6200 South, a future land use map amendment for approximately 5.5 acres from neighborhood commercial to light industrial, and a rezone approximately 14.3 acres from SC2 zone to M1. Legend Partners and John Taylor is the applicant. As I have previously mentioned to staff as well as to Commissioner England, I have a personal interest in this specific item. So for this item alone, I'm going to recuse myself and just listen in on mute and let Commissioner England run the show for this specific item.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Chair. All right, so you already read the description. Who's the applicant? John Taylor. I've seen him there as a participant. John, are you here?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Do you want to present your application for us, please?
Thank you for allowing me the time tonight, and I appreciate all the accommodations staff and the city and the commissioners made in order to keep doing business here. The property I represent here tonight comprises 14.303 acres surrounding the southwest corner of Airport Road and 6200 South. This property has been owned by the current group, ownership group, for several decades and is the remaining acreage of a larger parcel. Currently, this parcel is used as dry farming, is in Greenbelt. The requested zone change will necessitate removing the property from the agricultural exemption and increase the tax base of West Jordan. as it appears vacant as a dry farm, and there's been numerous instances through the past several years of people doing illegal dumping on it. And it's been a nuisance both to the city and the property owners and to adjacent owners. This property has been marketed for development for many years, and the current commercial classification has really been the deterrent. The area is overserved currently for commercial uses, with Cougar Place Shopping Center doing the neighborhood section and Jordan Landing to the east with 1.2 million square feet. There just hasn't been demand for the commercial side of this. The light manufacturing uses are consistent with West Jordan's M1 to the south, and the inclusion of the southern portion in the master plan for M1, it gives a consistency of zone to bring this whole property into an M1 zone, and we can get some development occurring for some businesses for West Jordan. Any questions? Let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Okay, Lisa, is this yours?
Yes, that's me.
Right.
The applicant pretty much hit the nail on the head on it. As you can see by this slide here, the land is already, the southern portion of it is already general plan designated as light industrial. So for that application, they're only asking to add in the northern portion of that. And then to be consistent for the zoning that's on the right side of the page, they just want to make the zoning consistent with the rest of the land use. You can see around there to the south, we've got some county facilities. And then we've got the new quality electrical systems coming in on those 3 parcels down to the south. And then a business park going down even below that. So that whole area is industrial. Also, this is going to be industrial right here. This is in Kearns, but it's already zoned for industrial here. This was their slide that they wanted added in. I'm sorry, John, I probably should have put that up while you were speaking. Of course, you can see the shopping centers in here that he was talking about in his presentation. And that's really all about staff has. We do recommend this to be forwarded on to City Council, just for the fact that it is increasing a contiguous amount of M1, but it won't cause a problem in the future because, as you can see, there's no more land around it to try to rezone to M1 at the same time. So that's what we have. Do you have any questions?
Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Elgin? I really can't see anybody. I'll just rely on you chiming in here.
I got just one quick question.
Go ahead, Jay.
Traffic. Where's the main traffic going to be coming in? Is it going to be coming up right off of 6200, or is it off of Airport Road?
Well, we don't have any concept plans, so and I don't think they have any idea what they want to do either. I think there's been some interest in buying it as industrial, but as far as we as city staff know, we have no idea what the future plans would be.
Okay, there's no limitations of entryways on 62 or Airport Road or the other access up to the west?
Nate might be able to answer that better. There wouldn't be access to the west. That's a railroad track on the west.
Okay.
We would
So it'd be just... Go ahead.
We would try to get the majority of the traffic to come in and off of Airport Road. Being industrial, it does not need a lot of frontage, visibility. So Airport Road would be the best. If they would we assume they would want access on 62. I don't see us having a problem creating one, but it would be held as far away from the tracks as we could make it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff or the applicant before we go to the public hearing?
I've got one for staff. Ms. Elger, could you go back one slide? Is that the image on the right? Should that still remain neighborhood commercial in the upper right corner that's not outlined?
Yes, yes, that's not part of this application. Yes,
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to confirm.
you're correct.
And I'm not 100% positive, but I believe the applicant's raising his hand and would like to speak.
That's not the applicant.
Okay, I can't see on my end. It looks like
I think that's somebody who wants to speak.
I can see who it is. So let me go ahead. Let's open up this for public comment. Again, specific to this item, number 7, the West Jordan Airport. Go ahead, Mr. or Mrs. Merrick Wright. You've got your 3 minutes.
I hope, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I represent my family owns the retail shopping center that fronts 6200 South, which is immediately adjacent to the property in question. Millions of dollars have been invested in building the Family Dollar and the 4-tenant retail strip center that's there. We've owned it for about 10 years. I'm very much in objection to the front part of this property being rezoned to industrial without knowing how it's going to be used and developed in the future. Part of the biggest reason for that is that we have an entryway to our property off of 6200 South that is a shared cross easement agreement with the property owners that are the applicant. When they sold off this property, those cross easements were established with the McDonald's property, the McDonald's Chevron, and also our shopping center property. My fear is that trucks will use 6200 South, and it will be an increase in the amount of traffic using commercial trucks onto 6200 South, which carries currently 39,000 cars per day. I believe it is appropriate that industrial use for the back half of the property be granted, but not to change the shopping center and neighborhood commercial zoning that is applicable to the front of the property on 6200 South. It was indicated that you'd want to push the entryway as far away from the railroad tracks as possible, and that will result it being run down the side of our property where we have traffic and parking that fronts into the building from the side, and people will be backing up into that driveway with trucks coming in and out of the property. I also see it as a opening to building a mega warehouse facility with large trucks. I might be willing to consider it if there was limitation in the size of the buildings. It also would allow for billboards to be established on 6200 South. And I don't know you've hit a max already in the city, but somebody could relocate one from a lower traffic street to one that now has over 39,000 cars a day, blocking our visibility and basically reversing the reliances of shopping center zoning that we had for adjacent neighborhood and the expectation of that going in and around us. The property has been marketed for sale, yes, but only by industrial agents of any significance in the commercial market. I am a commercial real estate broker and have a history in the market overall, and know that the property has not been offered where somebody could buy a part of the frontage, or whether they could, where it was being marketed and really directed towards retail development. We are at 100% occupancy and have been for many years. And, I think that if the shopping center zoned property to the west of ours was offered in parts, that it would be received by development and or users. I'm concerned to grant this M1 zoning without knowing how it's going to be used and developed. If it was a user that was coming to table saying that we wish to do a development of this size and scale and limit our entryway is only to 6,200 or to Airport Road, then I could potentially support it. But at this point, I have adamant objection to it, to downzone the property to an industrial zoning with basically a 10-foot setback requirement from 6,200 South, and the ability of that zoning to allow things like recycling facilities and billboards and storage units, pawn shops, massage places, and also the trucking that will come from that. I have one truck a week come in for Family Dollar, and maneuvering that into position for unloading is not always easy. And if we have additional trucks coming into that driveway off of 6,200 South, then I see nothing but problems and probably losing my Family Dollar tenancy.
Okay, forgive me for doing this backwards, but Mr. Wright, will you state your address for the record?
The address of the property is 4663 West, 6,200 South.
And I meant your address on record.
Personal address is 1390 South Ambassador Way, Salt Lake City, Utah, 84108.
Great. Thank you.
The property is owned by David and Geraldine Winder, LLC. That is my
All right.
mother and father.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Any other? Thanks, Julie. Any other hands raised that I'm able? I can't tell. Okay, seeing none, and we've vetted out all these phone numbers. Is that correct? No new ones in there?
I believe so. Nobody spoke up.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and close the public hearing and bring this back to the commission for discussion.
Well, so this is, I guess this is an interesting one. Maybe a question for either staff or the commission. We're just looking at rezoning at this point in time. We don't know what the property is going to be used for beyond the potential for the light manufacturing uses. We don't have a site plan. We don't know setbacks beyond what's required in the codes, access roads, those kinds of things. So we're just looking at zoning at this point. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
And with this particular zoning, if we move to this, how many of the concerns brought forward by Mr. Merrick are possible? Are we seeing that a potential for a 10-foot setback from 6,200 South? I understand the traffic situations. All of that can be worked out through the site plan. But what about the concerns with the billboards and the large buildings essentially shadowing his buildings, not being able to get that advertisement?
We can't completely rule out some of his concerns. I don't believe, and I don't know if Mark is still here or not, but I don't believe a billboard would be allowed there. I'm thinking back to most of our industrial uses, and they don't, especially the newer ones, they don't use the big signs that would shadow that out. As for the traffic, Nate mentioned earlier that they absolutely would be trying to push the entrances as far away from the railroad tracks as possible.
No, that all makes sense. Thank you. From my standpoint, I look at this. I think the light industrial, if it gets somebody in there to take care of that property and clean things up, I think it's a fantastic thing. I share some of the concerns that Mr. Merrick shared, possibly some others as well, that would obviously be looked at as part of the site plan once that comes through. So from that standpoint, I understand. On the other hand, I think this would be a positive thing for the city. So if there's additional comment, great. If not, I'd be happy to make a motion.
I have additional comment, Chair.
Yes, go ahead. Commissioner
Hopefully
Hatch.
my dogs won't decide to have a barking in the middle of this.
Better than kids coming in.
Well, kids won't happen, but yeah. The public comment on this, I know we're not supposed to be swayed by public clamor, but these were some thoughts that I had prior to even listening to the comment is creating, I think the commercial space works better than light industrial for this section. And I can see the concerns for both the city and also trying to sell the land. I would just like to be reminded again, the applicant, the attempts to sell, how, I don't know what the market is. I'm not in real estate development or anything, but what are the attempts to sell this have been and how it has been received?
You want to bring the applicant back in? Do we need a motion to do that?
I would like to bring the applicant back in if we could make a motion to do that.
Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Hatch to allow.
I'll second.
And we've got a second by Commissioner, drawing a blank.
Allen.
Sorry. Allen. I apologize. Is it Mr. Taylor? Are you there still?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. Do you want to address some of these questions and concerns that have been brought before us?
Absolutely, and they're valid concerns. The commercial there, it has been marketed as available land. Truly, the most recent agent was an industrial agent, but it's been marketed with the commercial zoning classification in place for greater than 5 years. There has been little to no interest. What interest has been shown has been by a single pad developer. If that person comes in and does a little half-acre or quarter-acre pad, it necessitates a subdivision, pulling this all the way out of the green belt, putting the 5-year rollback tax onto these owners when they have roughly 14 acres left to sell for industrial. It's a group, it's an ownership group that started as 3 friends. A couple of them have passed away, so their family, their heirs, their spouses are now in the ownership group. They have to agree to everything. That's both expenses and clauses to sell. So any of the plans that have come up in the past have primarily been by storage units, apartment people, which don't match with what the city wants there, doesn't fit with the zoning. It would require a zone change, still leaving them part of the property. Then it gets parted out and it takes years and years to develop. We have numerous developers that want to come in and build smaller industrial space. I don't know who will be there with the change of the market that's happened right now with the virus and people shutting down, opening it up. But we're envisioning for a lot of smaller flex space or 10 to 20,000, 5 to 10,000 square foot buildings go through here. And they're going to have to come to the city and the planning commission and get a subdivision of plat approved to do that. One large warehouse user, this isn't a really good fit. To move the access point as far away from the railroad, it would come down to that shared drive access point, which doesn't benefit either person. It'd be somewhere in the middle. But like city staff said, most of the traffic is going to be directed towards Airport Road, and the shopping center will still have its access point. I don't believe you can put 10 feet from a street frontage there for any industrial buildings. So there still is a good view corridor there. We'd like to work with the neighbors on concerns with that, and primarily in the subdivision process.
Do you have a buyer lined up to already, or are you now going to market this as light industrial?
There's been numerous buyers in the past. I am not negotiating with a buyer right now. Several have approached, but the planning process to go through on a quarterly basis to get the zone approved, and then the time frame that's involved for a developer to wait, it makes more sense to get the zone change now than the cart before the horse, because as soon as that zone change comes, then we can market it to someone and they'll know what's going to be about approved and allowed there. In the past, that's what's put everybody off and stopped the marketing and the planning.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. I appreciate it.
Any other questions for the applicant while we've got him back? Any other commissioners have any questions?
No, but I just got a comment.
Go ahead, Jay.
I think some of the questions and definite concerns, as I brought up, is with traffic, can be brought up before when they do the plat plan and actually the development of that parcel. So I think we can address everybody on this particular parcel of land. We will have to revisit it again, and I'm sure staff can make those concerns known.
And I would agree. It sounds like both sides are pretty reasonable, and we encourage them to work together moving forward. So with that, any more discussion or a potential motion?
One more question for Mr. Taylor while we still have him. What, from your standpoint, say the zoning goes through, it's approved, everything's in your favor, and you start marketing this, and all of a sudden somebody comes in and says, I want to build a community shopping center. What are you going to be doing in that type of situation?
You know, I would jump for joy, but that just isn't going to happen. The Harmon Center to the northwest serves the neighborhood, serves the community really well. And you have the category killer of 1.2 million square feet with Jordan Landing to the east. And they're even trying to backfill and put new tenants in re-tenanting. What you're going to see is a coffee person or something else. But if someone comes in and wants to pay double to bring it back shopping center, we're going to come back and beg you to do shopping center. It's not going to. I don't see envisioning that happening within the near term, and the near term being 3 to 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Yes, go ahead.
I move that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council to approve the future land use map amendment for approximately 5.5 acres on the north portion of the parcel from neighborhood commercial to light industrial, and rezone the entire parcel from SC2 Community Shopping Center to M1 Light Industrial Zone District for West Jordan Airport LLC, located at 4701 West, 6200 South.
Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Hatch. Any second?
Chair, maybe just, I do want a second, but I want to make a quick statement, and that is I like this approach. I look forward to having somebody come in quickly that can fill this space, and that we'll have an opportunity to take a look at that site plan as that comes in. And address many of the same concerns that we've shared, as well as others here. So with that, I second the motion.
Great, thank you. So we've got a motion by Commissioner Hatch, a second by Commissioner Allen. Remember to unmute your mics. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
So we've got Commissioner Shelton. So we are not unanimous. We are 6-1. And
5 to 1?
remind me,
5 to 1.
5 to 1. I can't count. And do we need to set the record for why he was against that vote? Remind me.
No.
Mr. Murray? No? Okay.
No, you don't need to.
That was if we denied it. Okay. All right. Motion passes 5 to 1. Moving on. Chair, do you want to take over item number 8?
I know counting under pressure is difficult, so well done there on that.
Yeah, tough.
All right, thank you guys for your discussion. I enjoyed it. And moving along to item number 8, this is the 8393 development for a future land use map amendment and rezone from approximately 2.2 acres from agricultural open space to medium density residential, and rezone from A5 zone to a R110 single family residential lot zone. NPMC Inc. Catherine Young is the applicant. Ms. Young, are you here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, so the planned project is about 2.2 acres. There's 4 different parcels. and we're planning on small, mid-sized, single-family homes. The finished product would be probably about 5 homes. There's only one existing home on the property right now. Because it is such a small development, we're not planning on any significant impact on the surrounding properties. Right now, it is zoned as agricultural. It hasn't been used for any agricultural purposes, at least for 3 years. The property owner doesn't have any intention of farming it now or in the future, so we believe that converting it to housing would be the most productive use. Medium density housing fits in with the land surrounding it. It's currently low and medium density surrounding it, and then agricultural to the east of the property. Again, we feel like it's a better use of the land because it puts housing back on the market, especially with the housing shortage in the Salt Lake Valley right now. We're asking for a rezone to R110, single family residential.
Excellent. Any questions for the applicant?
I have one.
Oh, Commissioner Shelton.
This is above the riverbed. Is that correct?
Part of the land is, yes, and part of it isn't. So that there may need to be walkout basements constructed somehow for the part of the land that is lower, but it's not all the same elevation.
The water table in that area?
We're not clear on the water table yet. We still need to do more testing.
Thank you.
I have a question, Chair.
Go ahead.
Is this the entire piece of property that the family owns, or are they just parceling off this section?
The property owner for those 4 doesn't own any other the surrounding property.
All right, thank you.
It's yeah.
All right. We may have a lot of questions kind of spinning around in our heads, but let's move on to Ms. Elgin, and then maybe we can circle back with those questions.
Okay. As you can see, and the applicant hit on it, this is the way that Temple Drive is going. This is the pattern of land development. We've got the medium density and the low density right across the street. There's even some higher density outside the bounds of these maps. What they're proposing is more of a judgment call, I guess, on your side. But this is the way land development is going, taking agricultural use out for residential. And staff recommends that you forward a positive recommendation on to City Council for that.
Okay. Any thoughts? Commissioner Thomas, I'm especially interested to hear what you think on this one.
I bet you are. I got some concerns.
Let's go.
First of all, it doesn't meet our master plan. The whole area surrounding it is agricultural, except for across the street on 13th West. My biggest concern is we're taking this one little small parcel and converting it to residential, where everything around it is agricultural, with the exception to the west. With that being said, I think if you keep piecing this out, kind of like what we've seen over and over again in our city, it does not fit with the master plan, and I don't think it meets with the intent. And with some of that property around it is a dairy farm, or I shouldn't say dairy farm, but a cattle farm and some cattle. And then again, you've got some of the agricultural nuisance issues when you bring in residential right close to it.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts?
Chair, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Allen.
I agree a lot with what Commissioner Thomas said. The primary comment that I'd written down as I was going through this was, is this area going to change as part of the master plan, and how does that look? I would much rather see this developed wholesale, or at least planned out wholesale than piecemeal. And that is my primary concern. That's for uniformity. That's for utilities. That's for expansion of Temple Drive if necessary. All of those need to be considered as how all this could develop out, not just these handful of parcels.
Yeah, well, we're waiting to see if anybody else has a thought. And Ms. Elgin, this question is specifically going to be for you or possibly Nate. I understand that there's a plan to try and widen Temple Drive, and I would assume that means we're probably going to see a slight uptick in the speed limit on that. And so this concept of piecemealing this and having a bunch of driveways emptying onto or little private roads emptying onto 13th West is just going to continue to slow the flow of traffic along there. And that's kind of the anti-point of doing an expansion if we're trying to get the traffic to flow better. Anyway, just if you could answer that question, if that's going to have, if we've considered expansion of the road and how that's going to make any effect on this, if we set this as a standard for piecemealing these properties.
Okay, this is
Go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would say this would be the ideal model for the future. The things we would look at right now, we're just looking at a land use question. As we look at lot layouts and things at a later date, there would be a need for some road dedication for 13th West. We are planning on doing a project in the next few years to widen and improve 13th West with curb gutter and sidewalks. So there would be a little bit of a dedication and either some construction of that widening or else deferring the cost over to the city for that purpose. And we would not want to have like 3 houses in a row all fronting on the road. We'd want to have them all, share an access, a lane or a cul-de-sac or something that would help them to, utilize one point of access rather than 3.
Thank you. Did you have anything to add to that, Ms. Elgin?
No, I think as traffic concerns go, I think you have some legitimate concerns. And Nate addressed that. We don't want a whole bunch of them, a whole bunch of accesses onto Temple.
Okay. Are there any other specific questions for staff? I think we all have some interesting thoughts that we want to share. But unless we have a specific question for staff, I propose we move forward. Ms. Hatch.
Yes, thank you. I pulled this up on my other computer screen and I can see electrical lines all along Temple Drive. I'm assuming that those would have to be buried. Nate, is that an accurate assessment?
Our capital projects group has been that it's really a goal and a dream to bury those when we do a project on that, when we widen that whole road. But the cost is going to be very high to do that. I know it's been discussed. It's been on again, off again, and right now I don't believe that's in the current plan, but I'd have to go back and check with some folks on that.
Okay. And then also, what's the elevation change from 1300 to the end of the property that we're considering?
Oh,
I believe it's 10 feet.
Okay, thank you.
This is Nate again. I don't believe it's extreme. It does slope that direction. And so as we look at drainage, they would have to devise a system that retains that water on site and without discharging it onto neighboring properties.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions for staff?
Sure, I've got
All right,
one.
let's go ahead and open up go ahead.
I'm unfamiliar with this aspect of it, so question for staff: is this area? What do we see in the master transportation plan with this area. Is Bill still on?
I don't know if he's on. Our transportation plan just shows 13th West as being developed as a collector road. Those sparse areas in there, those will fill in with non-master planned roads. So
Okay,
it's
so
not on the master plan that I'm aware of.
So the 8450 south, which is just a little bit south of there, that's not shown on a master plan as being expanded.
No, I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Okay, let's open this up to the public hearing and get that part started here. We've got two people raising their hands. Mr. Hoodman has been waiting patiently for quite some time. So we'll go ahead and start with you, followed by Mark Tencio. And then Ms. Young is the applicant. If you have something else that you want to add, we'll bring you back up after the public hearing. So Mr. Hoodman, the floor is yours, sir. Thank you for your patience.
Great, thank you. I've got quite a few concerns with this. One is.
Oh, sorry, really quick, I'm going to interrupt you. Will you just state your address for the record as well, please?
I'm at 8329 South Bard Lane, which is one block west of the property. And if you look at 8340 South, I am go up one right there to the right. That's my property right there. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Go ahead and share your comment.
So what I'm concerned is where the property is where 13 West narrows. It's wide all the way down until it hits that property, and that's where it narrows and goes all the way up past the conservatory and in that. I'm concerned with that. Traffic at between 5 or 6 in the afternoon, we get traffic backed up all the way past our house from 90 South all the way up, which is, I don't know, what would you say? It's 3/4 of a mile. So you've got that. Also on the property, there's a canal. If you look at the conservatory, you can see it going through. And I think that actually winds around and goes to Plum Creek Park at one point. And if they start developing that, is that going to ruin the pond over at Plum Creek? And the basic thing, it's all agriculture. You got cattle over by the conservatory, down by, it's probably about 8450 right in there. That's where you got more cattle where the rancher has. So, and then they've got all in the back where, it's green. That is all, where they have cattle and stuff like that. So are we going to start filling this in with residential and end up with a mess like what's on Holden and 72 South, where you go over there, it's all been developed and now you can't. So it's mainly traffic and, what's going to happen to the canal, and are we going to end up just developing all the property there so it's residential?
Thank you. Mr. Tencio. Hang on 1 second, we'll get you unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
All right, yep, you're up. Go ahead.
Great. I'd like to echo Commissioner Allen's comments that a comprehensive development would address many of the issues that I have. There are some bad examples just a few blocks south on 1300 West. On the west side, there are 3 short streets which were developed independently of the rest of the neighborhoods. And what those have done is created some traffic safety concerns with multiple driveways, multiple streets located close together. And in addition, it tends to separate the neighborhoods. I have some friends that live on those short streets and friends in many of the other areas, and much prefer the developments that connect the neighborhoods together. There are two good, successful examples immediately south of this site, both on the east and the west side of 1300 West, which were completed within the last 5 years. And those two developments were completed in a fashion where there is good continuity between existing developments. Neighborhoods and communities have been interconnected, and people know each other, and it develops much more of a community sense. Also provides flexibility to travel and consolidate access points onto 1300 West. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to share their thoughts at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and first order of business, bring Ms. Young back up so you can respond to any of the comments that were made.
And we appreciate those concerns. The current plans are for a cul-de-sac, so there would be one entrance onto Temple Drive. We've also spoken with the city about maybe making a connecting road for future development to the south, so that it isn't just a piecemeal development, that we're taking into consideration possible future development. And I mean, it would be happening along the process so that we could make sure. I mean, the city's already thinking about those things as we go through this. So we're definitely thinking about future development and keeping that in mind. The right of way for 1300 West, although the street narrows there, the right of way doesn't. So we wouldn't be allowed to develop on and make that road more narrow at that point. It's the same right of way all down 1300 West.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and bring this back to the Planning Commission. And as we all, if anybody has anything that they want to share, I'm just looking at this. And I appreciate the insight of the cul-de-sac, but I'm looking just quickly here on Google Earth from 70th to 90th. I see exactly one other cul-de-sac along here. And as this road continues to get busier and wider, I just don't see any precedence or anything at all that inspires me to want to add another cul-de-sac onto this road, even if it has an outlet that will eventually possibly tie into another piecemeal or even larger subdivision. I just don't see that as being valuable to the city at all. That's just my initial thoughts on this. I have many others, but I'll go ahead and let any of the other planning commissioners share their thoughts at this time.
I'm Chair, may I speak?
Go for it. It's all yours, Commissioner Hatch.
I feel like I'm stuck on the same thing all night long. We just keep piecemealing property, and I recognize that the owner only owns so much. But I have to agree that we really need to create a plan, and we have a plan. And rezoning this little teeny portion, I'm having a hard time understanding. I understand that the owner has a right to their land, but I really think we need to relook at this as a large piece of property, not just one little section. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas, when you get unmuted there. All yours,
I think it's
sir.
already, thanks. I think it's already been stated, but I think if we want to do this right, you do it as a large developed plan instead of just like what we've heard so many other times is the piecemeal. I have just seen our city so many times over the years piecemeal it, and it just causes nothing but trouble. It increases traffic. It does not match. The neighborhoods do not match with each other. It creates actually little tiny islands where the communities don't mesh. And so I think I have some major concerns about all of those items. Thank you.
Chair, if I may.
Commissioner England, you unmuted first, right? Are you ready?
Yeah, I just
And then Commissioner Allen.
specifically looking at criteria 2, where this proposed amendment, in my opinion, would result in a non-compatible land use relationships and would adversely affect adjacent properties. You know, I get that there are medium and low density residential, but you've got a major collector street in 1300 West dividing what is one huge agricultural piece of land here. So to me, I'm a no vote against this, specifically citing criteria 2.
And that's for the specifically under the zoning map amendment, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, Commissioner Allen.
I'm sensitive to, I mean, this is somebody's property. They'd like to be able to use it, develop it, profit off of it. And I understand that. I'm sensitive to that. I would absolutely welcome this to come back after the city has had an opportunity to understand a little bit more of the master plan. I would like or recommend that the developer of this lot contact the folks immediately to the north and east, excuse me, in particular, and see about just coming up with some general ideas about how that would put together. If all of this were to be shown in the master plan as an R110 or some form of a zone, and this came in as, or this was coming in today as phase 1 with a through street, houses on the north and houses on the south, and that street would run east-west, right across from 83, 80 South. I think that would be an easy statement of, yeah, let's move forward. We're going to expand that Temple Drive right-of-way through the process. This is going right into a future set of phases and developments. It's just not ready as it currently stands.
No, because Commissioner Thomas is reaching up. I just so that when we get to the point, because I'm with Commissioner England on this, and I'm a no, specifically on the general plan comments. Criteria 1, I mean, we're not even getting a concept plan with this, and just because it will be a lower density than the allowed 6.9 to 11 homes doesn't make it consistent with the goals of the city. It was criteria 2 that I just don't think that it's the right development pattern. I mean, the rest of the neighborhood to the west is all developed in a cohesive fashion, and there's nothing that's, you know, and everything that we've done along Temple Drive over the last couple of years has been more infill and taking up all the land available within a specific parcel. This just doesn't make any sense to me at all, and so I'm against this. Just initially on criteria 1 and 2 under the general plan, and in agreement with Commissioner England on his finding of criteria 2 on the other as well. Commissioner Thomas.
I was just going to make a motion for a negative recommendation if I can get a second.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody's opposed to that.
Okay.
Commissioner England.
I would second that.
Okay, go ahead and make your motion, Commissioner Thomas.
Okay, I move the Planning Commission forward a negative recommendation to the City Council for criteria 2 of the future land use map, that it does not meet that requirement for the, I'm looking at the exact address here. The district to R110 single family residential 10,000 square foot lot zone district for 8393 development located at 8393 South, 1300 West.
Again, I would second that.
Yeah, Commissioner England, was that you?
Yes, second.
Okay, as further discussion under the general plan amendment, I'm going to add criteria 1 and criteria 2 as reasons why I am in favor of a negative recommendation at this point. Any other discussion to this motion?
I think I would also add criteria 4.
Under the general plan?
Yeah, it's not an overall improvement.
Correct. I think we could go through and pretty much hit up on most of these criteria. Right. Does anybody else have anything specific that they want to add? Okay, we have a motion to for a negative recommendation to City Council on both points from Commissioner Thomas, seconded by Commissioner England with the notes of the discussion. Any other further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are unanimous in a negative recommendation to City Council on both of those. And that moves us along to item number 9, Master Transportation Plan Amendment. This is to adopt the City Transportation Master Plan Future Roadway Network Map with changes to the alignments of 6400 West and 6700 West between Wells Park Road and Old Bingham Highway. These two streets will be combined south of Wells Park Road to a new street called 6500 West. We'll go ahead and defer and let Mr. Baranowski take the reins on this one. I'm hoping you're still around here.
If he's not on, I'm available.
It's all yours, Nate. He doesn't appear to be here.
Okay. As you look at the if you can see the staff report, I don't have it up on my.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. If you'll notice, there's two really large projects. One's called Project Hula, the other one's called Project Vast. They're both large potential data centers that are considering relocating here. That Project Vast is near the final of their site reviews and getting close to being approved. But the Transportation Master Plan bisects both of those projects. One Vast is bisected with 6400 West, and Project Hula is bisected with the extension of 6700 West. Because of the size of these projects, the roadway network does not need to be as extensive as previously planned when the master plan was adopted. It was expected there'd be a lot more smaller projects and more need for connectivity and roads. So we're just proposing to take both those roads and combine them into one road and put them right down the property line on the side. And that's all we're asking.
Excellent. Any questions for staff?
Chair, if I may.
Go for it.
So question for staff, are there any utilities currently existing within those two alignments that we're proposing to eliminate?
No, they're both just open fields right now.
And any indication from the Jones parcel how that would be received or handled with that now 90-degree turn from Wells Park to 6700 West?
That 90-degree turn can be redefined at a future time. The only part that's going to be at all being contemplated right now is the extension south of Wells Park Road.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up to the public. If there's anybody who would like to speak on this, go ahead and hit the raise hand button on your device right now.
Matt?
Yeah.
Mike Jones was on a telephone call, so I'm going to do that. He had mentioned that he wanted to speak on this one.
Is he still here then?
The phone is still there, so I'll allow him.
Oh.
You can ask him.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay, go ahead.
All right,
Okay,
Mr. Jones, are you with us?
I am. Thank you.
Yeah, go for it.
I would just like to say I appreciate the city staff for reconsidering this project. Before, they had a diagonal road that connected Wells Park Road to the New Bingham Highway and 6700 West. And what they proposed right now is tremendously better. That diagonal piece would just cut that up really bad. And I've talked to the staff, and I'm working with the developer right now, and And we may come in with a proposal to change that in the future, depending on what kind of proposals that we have for the rest of that property. But the way it is now is tremendously better than the diagonal that was in there. And like I said, I'd like to thank city staff for making that change. And that's all the comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up to the public for any additional comment. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring this back to the Planning Commission for discussion or a motion.
Chair, may I?
Yes, go for it, Ms. Commissioner Hatch.
I would like to make a motion.
Please do.
Based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council of the proposed changes to the City Transportation Master Plan Future Roadway Network.
I would second
Commissioner
that.
England. Perfect.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion to the motion by Commissioner Hatch? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Looks like we are unanimous in this vote. Excellent. Moving right along. We're getting close. Number 10, the West Jordan Engineering Policies and Design Criteria. Recommendation to City Council for approving the entirety of the Engineering Policies and Design Criteria Manual, including culinary water, land disturbance, landscape and irrigation, roads and bridges, sanitary sewer, storm drains, street lights, and all appendices and other related provisions as presently constituted with citywide applicability. Mr. Nelson, Mr. Murray, you guys can rock, paper, scissors for who gets to deliver the report.
I'll just speak on it for a minute. This is Nate again.
Okay.
It was, we're not proposing any changes to any standards or codes at this time. It was just recommended by our legal department that we put those forth to Planning Commission as a procedural move so that we had the ratification of the Planning Commission so that it gives the city, you know, when the attorneys could explain it better, but when we're challenged or questioned on those standards, we can basically demonstrate that it's gone through the recommended process.
Excellent. Any questions for staff?
If I may.
Go for it.
When was the last time these were updated? And probably more importantly, what is the schedule for reviewing or revisiting them?
I don't have exact dates for you. We updated the street lights about a year ago, year and a half. We did the streets about 2.5 years ago or so, maybe 3. Basically what we did was the cross sections and so forth. You'll be seeing on the next meeting on the 5th, you'll be seeing updated landscaping standards. So it's kind of periodic on the various ones. And we're working currently on sewer and storm drains.
And when it comes to the sewer, storm drains, culinary water utilities, for example, I assume we're following current codes and recommendations?
That's always the goal, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up to the public. It doesn't look like we have anybody left with us, but we'll go ahead and open this up to the public for any public comment. Okay, seeing none, we'll close this and public hearing, bring it back to the Planning Commission for further discussion or another motion. Commissioner Allen.
So I did not read through all of these. I started through the process and then kind of realized what it was that we're doing. I think it's good to have this backing. And so with that, and based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report, and evidence and explanation received today, I move that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council recommending reapproval as land use regulations of the entirety of the engineering policies and design criteria manual as explained.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. Any discussion to this motion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous once again. And moving on to our final item of the night, the 2009 West Jordan City Code recommendation to City Council for reapproving the entirety of Titles 5, Environment and Health, 8, Public Works, Public Ways and Property, 9, Utilities, 10, Building Regulations, and 11, Land Disturbance as presently constituted. The citywide applicability, City of West Jordan is the applicant. Mr. Nelson, you gonna run with this one as well?
Yeah, I guess so. Basically the same as the last one. Just they're codes that I'm not certain that they went through Planning Commission when they were initially adopted. So it's just being passed through Planning Commission for their ratification.
Excellent. Any questions for staff?
I have one, Chair.
Go for it.
This is for Duncan. How did these all get moved? I mean, what's the process? How did they get to where they are now without approval? Is he still here?
He's here.
Duncan, if you're there,
figuring out how to unmute. Maybe he's not here. It says he's here.
I'm just
Can you answer that
curious.
question?
I'm just curious.
Are you asking me a question?
Oh yeah, there we go. Mr. Murray's available.
Duncan, I'm just curious as to how these got to this point. Like, how did we not have these approved through the Planning Commission or public hearing? Are they just old enough that they weren't, or excuse me?
So here's what it is that on these, both the ordinances and the engineering design guidelines, they have been approved as ordinances, but they have not been approved as land use regulations. So that's kind of a little nuance. That what happened is there were major overhauls of the Land Use Development Management Act back in 2003 to 4 timeframe, and then again about 2015 timeframe. And each time with those major overhauls, they increased the realm or scope of what was a land use regulation. And in other words, what had to be approved by the Planning Commission in a public hearing before it went to the council to be approved. There's a lot of ordinances that are not land use ordinances, that are not like the zoning ordinance, the subdivision ordinance, and so forth, that have always had to go Planning Commission, then council. But over the years, in a sense, they've added in more and more things like signs and a lot of the things we have in our public works title, and some of these land disturbance and some of these other ones are clearly now being viewed as land use regulations. Therefore, they need the additional step of a Planning Commission public hearing before it goes to the council, because a lot of these titles predate those changes in the law. Now we just have to, and what we don't want to do is have someone claim that those titles cannot be applied to them because they weren't adopted properly under current law. We're just cleaning it up to match the changes in state law, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you. That's a good background.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, our last public hearing, we'll go ahead and open this up to the public for any additional comment. And seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring this back to the Planning Commission for discussion or possible motion. Commissioner England.
I'll make a motion based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report, and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council recommending reapproval as land use regulations of the entirety of titles 5, 8, 9, 10, and 11 as explained.
Commissioner Thomas.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner England, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. Any discussion to the motion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are unanimous and we are done. Unless there's anything else, guys, that's pretty good. We did that in a little over 2 hours. That's impressive. Unless there's anything else that somebody needs to bring up, I would say we are, I would entertain a motion to adjourn until May 5th.
Just a
I'll make
reminder,
that motion.
hang on,
Commissioner England.
Nope.
we've got the joint meeting Wednesday.
Oh, that's
City
correct,
Council.
next week.
Just a reminder.
So plan on this next week. I'm assuming Julie or Scott, Scott just took off. He didn't want to answer my heavy question. That someone will be getting us the full agenda and the time frame and the invitation for all that stuff. Mayor, looks like you're going to go with this one.
Yes, we're looking forward to having you all there. We've got a full agenda on that day. I'm just going to pull out my calendar up and I can tell you what time that starts, which is, and it'll be just like we're doing right now. It'll be online here. And I show that at 5:30.
5:30. Okay. And at some point we'll get an invitation with the link.
Now, I think I already sent that out, didn't I? Didn't I forward that invitation to you guys?
Yeah, Alan Anderson.
Yeah.
Alan Anderson sent that
Alan
invite
that's
out.
right.
Yeah, I first forwarded it.
I did get that.
Okay.
I forgot it came from Alan.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent. Well, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn until April 29th.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks,
night.
guys.
Stay
Appreciate
safe.
your work and your
Yeah.
service. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, stay safe and stay distant, huh?
Yes.